Dial H number 4, written by China Myville, art by Mateus Santaluco. Last issue left off with Ex Nihilo summoning a weird abyss creature thing, and it is actually called Abyss. So this issue is the explanation issue. Like, all the confusion I've had for the last 3 issues are pretty much answered here wholesale. So I'm going to try to go in order. We'll see how well that works. So the squid recounts how forever, like for God knows how long, he was stuck just falling over and over again due to some sort of punishment. And finally, it stopped one day, and he finds out that the person who made his falling stop was Ex Nihilo, who was looking for his companion, aka Abyss, who they just summoned. And Abyss is standing over the bed of Nelson's friend, and immediately Ex Nihilo is like, "Oh, I bind you. You work for me now." But it doesn't work, and the Abyss is just straight up pissed off and angry at pretty much everyone there, and starts attacking. Squid tries to stop it, but just gets holes blasted through him, seemingly killing him. So then we see Abyss is like ridiculously powerful, basically godlike in a lot of ways, but he's just able to knock out all the attacks that Nelson and, I'm blanking on the name, Manteau, that's it, are throwing at him. But then Manteau, as far as I can tell, throws a chair, which just causes it to pop out of existence briefly. So Ex Nihilo is super pissed that this happened. She knocks out Manteau and steals her dial. And then Squid steps in and knocks out Nelson, who, it makes it seem like he's about to get killed because he's hit with the ink, but turns out that it was actually fake, and he was just making it seem like he was killing Nelson. Also, reveal that Ex Nihilo is Dr. Wald, the doctor who was looking after Nelson's friend. Anyway, so Nelson, he leaves. He still has his dial. Everyone thinks he's dead, but his dial is no longer working. So he makes his way back to Manteau's place, and he sees on the news that Abyss is just attacking jewelry stores, and he's making his way to a geological exhibit. Meanwhile, Manteau is being held captive by Ex Nihilo and Squid, and Ex Nihilo is apparently what's called, I want to say, a nullomancer, in that she uses magic to control voids and nothingness, which is alright, but basically just trying to figure out like why she wasn't able to control the Abyss, why it's escaping, and she thinks that Manteau and the dial has some way of controlling it, because apparently the dial users are the ones who banished Abyss in the first place. Meanwhile, Squid's there. He is desperately hurt, and he is very upset that Abyss is basically just going on a rampage and wants Ex Nihilo's help in order to try to just contain it, because we actually get the backstory. I'll get to it in a second, but Manteau gets tortured by Ex Nihilo until finally she gives up answers on how to make the dial work. So Nelson's still watching the news, and he sees that a superhero of, I can't even tell the name of it, she's just got faucets, she's a water-based hero, anyway, shows up to fight Abyss, and he thinks it's Manteau, but Squid shows up to the apartment and says, like, yeah, we tortured her and got her home address. That's actually Ex Nihilo, who's trying to use the power of the dial and her nullomancy to control Abyss. And then we get the backstory of Abyss. So apparently on Squid's home planet, they like were able to capture and like wrangle up voids the same way that we wrangle cows, and they use them for things like transportation and whatnot. And he came across one void that was just smarter and better overall than all the other voids, and he taught it, and he bonded with it, and he used it for transportation and whatnot. And it turns out the voids are very hungry for light, that they just feed on it. So despite the fact that it's supposed to be a thing where the void is the subservient role, because this one was so smart, it was actually commanding him where it wanted to go. And as such, they got in trouble for stealing jewelry, because the void likes the taste of the light as it reflects off the jewels. And because of their committing the crime of stealing jewelry, he was basically sentenced to into that falling for all eternity thing, which Ex Nihilo rescued him from. So that explains all of that. Anyway, she thinks that the only way in order to control it, because the person who put away Abyss in the first place was a dial user, is via the dial. So she is currently in superhero form trying to use her magic on it as well. And he knows that isn't going to work. Abyss is driven mad and is starving based off of the hundreds of thousands of years that it has been unable to feed. So he's basically just pleading with Nelson, hey, you still have a dial. You can help me. Let's strike a deal here. And he's like, my dial isn't working. I would need Manto. And I was like, I can take you right to her. We got to go now, though. And he's like, all right, but I'm not a hero. And he's like, well, nobody knows you're not a hero. Just pretend to be one. So he puts on some of Manto's outfits and goes in as Rescue Jack, starts beating up all the thugs that are hanging out there. And they get in, and he sees this elderly woman tied to a chair. And he's like, oh, ma'am, don't worry, I can rescue you. And as she looks up, he recognizes that it's actually Manto. This is what she actually looks like when she's not transformed. So she gets her outfit back on. They fight through a few more thugs. And we see that Abyss, who's in the geological exhibit, Ex Nihilo is trying to control it, trying to see it. And Abyss shows her that Squid has betrayed her and is freeing Manto and Nelson. So he allows her to teleport through Abyss just to attack Squid. And so final page is her transformed inner hero thing confronting Squid, calling him a traitor. I mean, it's dense. I can't even begin to say how much they packed into this issue, and I skimmed over a lot of that. I know it sounds like I went in hard, but I skimmed a lot of it. So it's good. It's very good. And now I understand each of the players. I understand, because that was the thing, is that in all the previous issues, I was concerned. I didn't know what was a name half the time, what was a group, what was one person or the other, because some people spoke in the third person. Ex Nihilo especially referred to herself in the third person. It was very confusing, but now I've got the layout. I know where everything is, and nothing is really too shocking. I get I feel like I understood it going into it as well, but honestly, I am so happy for this issue just to be able to sort out, okay, here's where everything is, and I'm understanding it now. Now I can really just focus on the plot more so than the wait, hold on, what's going on? So overall, I'd say I really like the lore that this sets up. Art-wise, it's also good. Mateus Santaluco's been doing great on this the whole time. So I would probably put this at... I'd give this issue an 8. But I think the series as a whole has jumped in quality significantly now that I am very firmly grasped on what's going on. So I think we have the 0 issue next. This one did get a 0 issue, but after that we will get right back on track.